Welcome to the November 7th meeting of the Ames Community School District Board of Directors. I'll call the meeting to order and take approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Espesat, second by Franson. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6-0. Director Franson, would you please read the mission statement?
The mission of the Ames Community Schools is to ensure that all learners develop the knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and personal esteem necessary to grow in and shape a changing society.
Thank you. Our first item tonight is a public forum. We have 3 individuals wishing to speak. Residents of the district, students attending the district, parents or guardians of students attending the district, and district staff may address the board about any topic relevant to the district, whether on the current agenda or not. Those who wish to speak must sign up at the beginning of the meeting. Speakers' participation is limited to 3 minutes once per board meeting. The views and opinions of citizens addressing the board do not necessarily reflect those of the board, district administration, or staff. We ask speakers to remember that Iowa law prohibits the board from discussing specific employees or students or their performance. Student speakers will state their name and school. Others will state their name and address. First, we have Caroline Westort. Yeah, right there's perfect. Yeah, it's on. Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me? Oh. Hello, I'm Caroline Westort, Theo's mom. Theo's a first grader in Christy Franco's classroom at Fellows. He loves Mrs. Franco, and he's making great progress learning how to read in there. He's working very hard, and I'm very proud of him. He's 7. He's sitting right there. Starting this week, the district imposed a K-2 pilot on him and his classmates that switches his phonics curriculum 3 times this year. 3. Okay? He's 7. Dr. Reed from the Iowa Reading Research Center, IRRC, confirmed to me that the district dictated the pilot vet 3 curricula by each participating teacher, that the district set the criteria for participation, not IRRC. How can Theo make progress reading if he's pulled through 3 curricula? How can he do it? How could the district ever think that's okay? You all have children, I think, most of you. Do you? Are they participating in the pilot? Why not? I don't want my son to be a guinea pig for this district. The IRRC would be happy to explore alternative options with the district for a better design and implementation of this pilot. Please do so. I understand an Infinite Campus email was sent out about the pilot. I never received it. Who sent the pilot? Who sent the email? To whom? On what date? At what time? We were not informed. Why not? I only realized this was happening at conference time. That's outrageous. Okay? Could you please forward me a copy? I know you all have my email now. Why was parental consent not obtained? The district does not have permission to experiment on my son. It is illegal and immoral to do so without my permission. You do not have it. The pilot in Mrs. Franco's room is the only class at Fellows where the experiment is being imposed. Natalie, sitting right there next to Theo, Theo's twin sister, also a first grader at Fellows, is not burdened by this pilot. Why is Theo being discriminated against? What criteria is the district using for participation? Why has no penalty-free opt-out option been offered? I need answers to these questions, and I'm not alone. Right now, we appear to have only the following choices, only the following options. Option 1, participate in the pilot as is, clearly not in Theo's best interest. Option 2, switch to another classroom for literacy, a very disruptive choice, not at all in his interest. Option 3, sit out of phonics entirely. Really? Option 4, switch from Mrs. Franco's classroom for the rest of the year. Of course not. Of course not in his interest. These are terrible choices. They're terrible choices that were clearly not thoroughly thought through, not well thought through. The design and implementation of this pilot is, in fact, the most irresponsible thing I've encountered as a parent. Don't hide behind the Iowa Reading Research Center. Don't point fingers. Do not play politics with my son. Got it? I hereby formally demand you stop the pilot and put the issue on the school board's agenda as soon as possible. You're hearing it from every level across this district. Students, teachers, parents, administrators, we need you to do the right thing here. Stop this nonsense. Rethink and re-implement a more responsible version, for heaven's sake. That's your job. That's why we voted for you. That's what our taxes pay for. Allow Theo to continue to learn how to read with Mrs. Franco undisturbed. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Next we have is Celeste Chavez.
Hello, I'm Celeste Chavez. I'm also my daughter, Apollonia, is a first grader in Christy Franco's classroom at Fellows. She's Theo's classmate. And, my daughter has made great progress in Mrs. Franco's classroom, and I'm concerned, really, that the K-2 pilot that switches her phonics curriculum 3 times this year will really disrupt her learning curve. It's really infuriating me the most is that my daughter is being used as a guinea pig to test the curricula for the district behind my back and, of course, without my consent. I only learned about this program last week. I was looking for the first time in my life for my daughter's report card, and there was a message sitting in my Infinite Campus inbox. It was signed by Dr. Ross, and this is the first time that I do not receive an email alerting me about something relevant or relevant information posted in Infinite Campus. I received many of those emails about Fellows parking, safe route to school, but never an email alert about such an important message. Dr. Ross's message fails to disclose relevant details. For example, the students are being videotaped. I learned that from my own daughter. How's that even happening? She, who is 6, had to tell me this. How come my daughter is being videotaped if I have not signed a consent form? Who is going to be responsible for the use of the video? Who will be responsible if these images are used for illegal purposes? How are the images, files, how are they saved? How are they shared? How are they processed and disposed of? And when this will happen? There are really too many questions with no clear answer, and irrespectively of the future of the pilot, I demand that my daughter's images be completely deleted from any storage media and that the recording of image and sound stops. This district does not have my permission to videotape my daughter nor to record her voice. Going back to the program, I'm asking myself, who is supporting it? Parents were not given proper notice. Teachers? Were teachers trained to use 3 different sets of materials in a year time? If so, how do teachers feel about the progress that their students will make compared to other first graders in Fellows? Are school administrators supporting the program? Why? Because their sons and daughters are not in the guinea pig group? Are researchers trying to foster their careers by publishing academic papers based on unauthorized videotapes of fellow students? This is illegal. I would like to hereby support the formal request to put the Stop the Pilot issue on the school board's agenda at the earliest possible time. Step back a second, please, and put yourself in my shoes. Would you allow your kids to be experimented on without your consent? Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Christy Campen.
Hi, my name's Christy Campen, and I have 3 children at Fellows. My daughter is in 3rd grade, and my son is in 1st grade, and I have a stepson in kindergarten. My 1st grader, Maddox, is currently in Christy Franco's classroom. He has a 504 plan for multiple severe food allergies, and he has delays in fine motor and literacy. This year, we have seen amazing success with Christy Franco. I think she's an amazing teacher. She has brought the best out in him. He's been successfully sounding out words and reading short books for the first time. He's engaged in his classroom community, and he has a new best friend. Every day I'm hearing about how much he loves school, even when he'll tell you he's not very good at it. Those are his words. This week, his classroom began piloting one of 3 literacy programs. I'm sorry. They will be forced to pilot this year. I was never asked if I was okay with my child participating. My child's teacher had no choice in putting him in that position. I feel like the district doesn't care that my child is already struggling and now will be put in a position to test 3 literacy programs that we don't really know if they will be all that good for those children. Kids need stability, especially my child, who already has delays in this very specific area. I also, as the 2 previous parents mentioned, don't feel like the options we've been given to opt out of this program are sufficient. My child loves Mrs. Franco. My child is being successful in her program, and yet my only option is to remove him from that classroom and the friends that he has made this year to do what I feel is best for his literacy goals. That isn't okay. I'm here to ask the district to change the way you're piloting these programs before impacting hundreds of kids in the district. Please figure out a better way. There has to be one where parents and teachers can opt into the program, one where you can find support for what your goal is. I do think a literacy program is important. Every child in this district should have access to a quality literacy program. But don't force this on kids that are already struggling. Don't force a pilot on them that will cause them instability throughout a year. 3 changes for a child that is already struggling is too much. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close the public forum and move on to our first discussion item tonight, the entrepreneurial program.
First, I'd like to thank you for having us here tonight. We appreciate the time to speak with you. We're here to showcase our brand new program this year. I think you're going to be really proud of what we've done so far. I'm Vicki Hales. I am a business teacher at Ames High. I'm also advisor for this new program.
I'm Allison Doyle with Iowa State Research Park.
I'm Philip Ma, and I'm a junior in Ames High.
I'm Stephen McCowan, and I'm also a junior at Ames High.
I'm Kevin Maxwell. I'm a junior at Ames High.
I'm Logan Waller, and I'm a senior at Ames High.
I'm Tatiana Tankai, and I'm a senior at Ames High.
I'm Sabrina Hegelheimer, and I'm a senior at Ames High.
I'm Carter Mum, and I'm also a senior at Ames High.
We have a little video to show you here.
The Ames High School Business Engagement Collaborative was shaped by students for students. It provides Ames High School's bright young minds a chance to get a look into the professional world and an opportunity to gain experience in a real work environment outside of the classroom.
Business Engagement Collaborative has provided me with an opportunity to see every day what it's like to work in a professional setting, surrounded by not only classmates, but Iowa
mainstream living, and any other area of business is to provide our students with unique projects that will suit their passions, their skills, and challenge them in a variety of ways. We want them to be independent and have a realistic way that they're going to see their college-level internship or a job in the future.
While meeting as a whole, once or twice a week, and in individual teams or groups daily, with access to help from IFC Research Park interns and associates 24/7, we are able to maintain an independent, yet structured and successful program with minimal complications.
The Business Engagement Collaborative is one of the more exciting, if not most exciting, parts of my day. We are constantly working hard, but at the same time, there is never a dull moment in the office. We solve problems in fun and creative ways while still getting our work done.
The AHS-BEC is really an innovative program. The students here are learning invaluable skills and experience that is going to put them a step ahead of the game when it comes to college and future occupations. I, as well as all of us here, wish we had a program like this in high school.
The most innovative employers have shifted their thinking, and instead of recruiting exclusively from colleges, they are increasingly looking into our high schools to build marketable skills, identify talent, and create brand awareness. Part of our job is to connect companies to the resources they need to grow. The BEC is an answer to that call. On the reciprocal end, we are exposing students to what different career paths might look like for them before they make expensive decisions about their training.
The AHS-BEC, providing invaluable experience and opportunities to high school students in the world of business.
Okay, when I first signed up for this program, I didn't know what to really expect. I've never really done anything like this, and the only type of learning I've done has been in the typical classroom setting. It was a little scary knowing that I would be working on actual projects for real local businesses, but I knew that I would learn a lot from this experience. I've benefited to being exposed to situations such as speaking at a school board meeting that I would not otherwise have if I wasn't part of this program. Some of the benefits from this program I see include networking with businesses and developing communication, collaborative, and time management skills. We have to work independently and make sure progress is being made on our projects, which will benefit us as we head off to college and eventually look for jobs. The exposure to the variety of businesses and projects we get are helpful to us in determining the areas of study and careers we might be interested in pursuing. I'm very grateful to be part of this new program and would highly recommend it to my fellow classmates. One of the projects I've been working on with several others in this program is the Fellows Buddy Bench. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a bench that is set out at a playground to help kids find other kids to play with so no one feels lonely at recess. The bench is currently in the Ames storage facility waiting for an announced date to be installed at Fellows. The committee assigned to this project were asked to help advertise the installment of the bench and to create some type of promotional campaign for it. After a lot of discussion, we decided to create a promotional video for the Buddy Bench. This took a group effort in finding times to film and coming up with the outline and script of the video. The video turned out really great, and several other schools who have buddy benches have asked us if they could use our video to help promote their buddy benches. From doing this project, I learned a lot. This was probably the first time during this program where I realized how important communication and teamwork are. Me personally and as a group had to communicate with each other, our advisors, and with fellows, teachers, and students in order to make this project work and get it done. In order for this project to work well and to be able to do a good job on it, as a group we had to work well together to come up with the best ways to promote the Buddy Bench. In closing, I would like to thank our advisors, Mrs. Hales and Allison Doyle, for all of their work in making this experience possible. Thank you.
So daily life for me is whenever I have an open period, we drive out to the research park. For me, that's 8th period, which is blocked off for all of us. Sometimes I go out for like an extra hour during lunch or something, just whenever I have time. And Mondays, we all go to update on our projects that we're working on, and we just kind of ask questions and see where everyone's at with their projects. And usually when I go out there, not on Mondays, the first thing I do is get updates from the other interns that are out there on the projects because they're also working with us on that. And then next, I usually follow a to-do list, which includes sending emails to other students to like see where they're at, or coming up with questions that can help me get further on projects that I'm working on. And the projects that we're assigned to, earlier in the school year, we initialed different descriptions that we got on all the projects that Mrs. Hales and Allison Doyle found for us, and then from there they assigned them off to us. So all of us have like 3 or 4 different projects that we're working on. And one of my projects is the Lucky Star Art Market, which is an art market that is during the holiday season that will be taking place at the Research Park. And I'm interested in event management or sports management right now, so that is really interesting to me to see what it takes to make an event happen. And like I've helped with things like homecoming and prom, but it's really interesting to see outside of high school what kind of things go on behind the scenes. And so far, this program has given me experience in time management, communication, and many other things that will be needed after high school. One big thing is accountability, because there's no reward or punishment for going out there or for getting our projects done, really, and there's no letter grades. It's more just for you and for like other people that are depending on you. And there's a level of professionalism that's required, because it's outside of the classroom, and we have to communicate via email rather than text, which we're all used to. And we have to be able to schedule meetings and communicate through email with our fellow students and with Ms. Hales and Allison.
The video doesn't really do justice how cool it is to just the place that we have to work out there. It's amazing. I've never been to a place like it before in my life, and I guess through this program I've really been able to find a passion of mine, and that's creating videos, which I don't think without that I would have never had a chance to do. I've just met a ton of new friendly people out there that I would never have met if I was a part of this program, all the ISU interns, and Allison, of course. Other than that, I mean, it's just really great. I love being in the program. It's one of the best parts of my day.
So that's just a little sampling of what they're getting out there. Obviously, there's so much more. Just a quick little background of how this program came to be. We are continually striving to get these kids the soft skills that businesses want. That's all we hear from businesses, is they want the soft skills. And it's hard to do that in the classroom. And so this is getting them outside the classroom. This is getting them at an actual business, and they're working with businesses. It was a brainchild between Allison and myself. It was just kind of the pieces fell into place at the right time. And we decided that, after researching several programs, we wanted to make our own. And so we really used pieces from what other schools have been doing, but we tailored this for Ames High. And that was important, Ames High and the Ames community. We have currently lots of businesses that we're partnering with. To start off, we have obviously the ISU Research Park, where they are currently housed for their work site. Mainstream Living, Vision Bank, the Inclusive Playground Steering Committee, Fellows Elementary, the ISU Startup Factory. We have new projects that just came in from Converse Conditioned Air, the Ames Public Library, Story County Conservation, Hunsaker and Associates, and we are in conversations to get projects from Story Construction, Vermeer, ACI Mechanical, REG, Danfoss, Mary Greeley, Workiva, and we're in conversations with many more businesses every day. So we're looking for this to grow and really be a great thing for not only the students, but for the community of Ames as well.
So from the Research Park's perspective, it probably wouldn't come as a shock to any of you that we're faced with a bit of a talent shortage in our state. And when I started at the Research Park about 8 years ago, we would hear from companies that they were interested in looking at Iowa State students in their junior and senior year. Increasingly, that's freshman and sophomore year, and we're hearing more and more from companies, what are you doing with high school students? So this program is something that the Research Park is committed to. I represent a fourth of our full-time staff at the Research Park, so we run a pretty lean operation, and for us to commit resources to piloting something means we want it to succeed and grow. We already have other companies, aside from ourselves within the park, who are more than willing, as the program grows, to take additional cohorts or teams of cohorts within their location.
We left additional time in case you guys had questions.
Well, first, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I appreciate all the students coming out to give it. My one question would be, I love the idea of project-based learning and what you're looking to accomplish. What are some of the challenges you see to either expanding this or what you've faced here in this initial pilot?
Obviously, a big challenge is just getting the community support. In every business that I've talked to, they're all on board. It's never been an issue of, I don't know if it's for me or not, it's, yes, we're in, how can we get involved? A big thing will be getting more students in the program, and that's something that we're going to be addressing actually in the near future. We'll be getting into classes and promoting this similar to what we're doing here, and just letting other students know about it. We've already started talking to some parents. I was promoting this at conferences last week. I think another part would be, as we grow, the research part can't hold everybody. And so that will be another factor where I know Allison's in conversation with some people already about housing additional students for an additional work site.
I guess from a student perspective, what challenges do you face outside of being forced to email instead of text?
Wearing a tie, I'm guessing, is one of them.
I guess it's just finding enough time all together for like all of us to be out there at the same time working on the same projects is really a big thing. Other than that, really, there's not that much difficulty that I have.
Also balancing out the different projects, because we all have a lot of different projects with the schoolwork that we also have on top of that, and just being able to communicate with other people since we're all out there at different times and kind of seeing where we're at, if we're on the same project, like what they're working on, what we're working on, and make sure that we're on the same page.
Sabrina, you mentioned that you interact with other interns. Are those other interns your peers in high school or in college too?
They also have college students out there that we interact with, and they're also in charge of some of the same projects that we're on. So we have to make sure we're talking to them too.
Great.
Vicki, going back to kind of along the line of what Luke was saying, I mean, how far could this program expand without additional staffing support or reallocation of staff? Have you projected numbers?
Good question. I think for next year, we're looking to hopefully get, right now we have 9 students. We have one that's sick and one's on vacation. This was a good pilot number for us. Next year, we're hoping to get 30 range. And from there, we'll kind of evaluate and see where we're at. We don't want to get too big too fast because that's not going to be good. We want to make sure that we keep it in control and do it the right way.
I know Spence gave you a pretty free hand to try and get this thing organized and get it going. I think you've done a marvelous job with that. And Dr. Ross and I were out to watch one afternoon at least and see. So I'm pretty impressed. From our conversations earlier in the year with the Business Roundtable, it was the soft skills that continued to come out. And it was also a lack of, as you mentioned, Allison, things that are more identified as skilled trades. And I see on your list you have some of those involved, and it would be interesting to see what kind of projects come out of that, because I think you also face, and I know Mike Esposette from Story Construction is at the end of the table here, and we're really happy to see those kinds of things happen, because what we heard at the round table are framers and welders and electricians and people that can make 6 figures in 5 or 6 years after they get enough training, and it really presents a great career for people. The interesting part about this is trying to get skilled trades experience for high school kids, but there is still a limitation about being on a work site. So I know I'm certain you're going to be creative enough, as you have with the students right here, to get that one figured out. So thank you very much.
Other comments, questions from the board? Great, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Our next item tonight is fixed assets inventory services proposal. Chris.
Good evening. I have before you a proposal to do an inventory of our fixed and capital assets. This was actually a project that Karen had started working with fixed asset services or asset services on. Well, there's 2 different types of assets that schools districts have. We have our fixed assets, and then we have our capital assets. Capital assets are anything over $5,000 for an individual item. Those items we have a somewhat accurate inventory on, and we're depreciating those, and that shows up on our financial statements. What we don't have is an inventory of everything that the district owns, that in the case of say a loss of in a building, to have a list of what was in there that needs to be replaced. Asset Services started talking to me last fall. I kind of put them off a year because I wanted to wait until Fellows and Sawyers were done so that we had all 5 of the elementaries done and fully equipped and furnished. But at this point, it would seem to be necessary to go ahead and do an inventory of all those, get everything tagged. I'm going to tell you that having been through a fire that destroyed a middle school, having a fixed asset inventory to start from to process that claim was very important. I don't know how we would have gotten through it. I'm not saying the inventory was probably as up to date as it probably could have, because in schools things tend to move from room to room and maybe even from school building to school building as teachers move around the district. But we had a pretty good start to process that claim. So the purpose of this would not only be to have that inventory of all of our assets, but then also to have Asset Services take those assets and do a cost replacement on it so that we can make sure that what we have insured on our insurance policy for contents is accurate. We work with John at Gateway and try to come up with a good estimate for the contents, but this would be a good backup. But mainly we want to make sure our assets are being used correctly, that we know where they are, and that if, God forbid, anything should happen to one of our buildings, that we have somewhere to start to process a claim. Be happy to answer any questions.
So once we do this, is there a rhythm or routine that says, every 5 years we should update, or every so often? What does that look like?
We should. The first plan would be to have them come in after the first of the year and start inventory through all the buildings. I do know that they want to wait until the one-to-one devices are back in the summer and not try to inventory those during the school year. So we'll coordinate that with Carl. I also told them that we have the new building that'll be coming online this summer, and we'll want to have them back after that's fully furnished and equipped. During the course of just doing business, we should be, as things are being bought, we should be, for those items over $500, we should be sending asset tags out. We should be keeping track of that as we go. As I mentioned, sometimes things move room to room, some things move building to building. It's probably would be wise, probably every 3 to 5 years, to have them come back and just rescan. That is a lot less labor intensive than doing the original inventory, getting everything tagged. One of the things that I really do want to do is they'll be able to produce a file for me that is compatible with Grantwood, our financial accounting software. They have a fixed asset module that we are not using. I want to get not only our capital assets that I've been depreciating, and Karen was as well, on a spreadsheet into that module that will do a lot of that will take care of that depreciation more than me trying to manipulate a spreadsheet. But I also want to get all those other assets that are $500 and over into that so that we can produce those lists anytime we need a list of what's in a building. They will also provide us with a list of books. I kind of told them we're trying to be paperless, so I'm going to try to avoid getting a bunch of books on listing all of our assets. I'd rather just have it electronically. But yes, I mean, and obviously that's a function of budget, whether you can have them come back every so often and rescan. Obviously, if we had any other additional building projects or renovation projects in which equipment and furniture is part of the mix, we would want them to come back and do that inventory for those projects as well.
Can we pay for this out of management fund or PEPAL, or does it have to be general fund?
It's general fund. It's a purchase service.
Have they given you a ballpark on what those ongoing costs might be, or can they?
I could ask for that. I didn't. I was more worried about getting the initial inventory done. I was at Burlington for 10 years, and I have to say I didn't have them come back in and do it. I mean, it's just one of those things that kind of gets put on but we were sending out the bar tags every time we bought something that was $500 or more. We were sending those inventory tags out to the buildings, and they were to put those on, and they had to sign off that they had been fixed. So we were keeping up with the inventory. So then it's just a matter of whether you're going to spend, if I had to guess, I would say it'd probably be less than $5,000 to have them just rescan, because all they're doing, they're not trying to find makes and models and all that stuff that needs to go on the inventory tag to begin with. And we wouldn't necessarily have to have a cost replacement done every time that happened as well.
I understand the total loss aspect of it, and that makes sense to have the list, so you know what we lost. Is there any potential savings if we do this in just day-to-day operations? I can't picture any, but
The only savings that I could possibly see is if we've overestimated our contents on the insurance. You know, we have to kind of, we do an estimate on the replacement cost of the building, and we do an estimated replacement cost of the contents, because that's what our insurance is replacement cost. I can't imagine it's going to be significant. I think it's more a matter of whether, so for instance, and I think it was contained in such a small area, but the issue that we had at the high school this summer, if that had been much more magnitude, or in the case of our fire, everything was just completely destroyed. I mean, you might be able to go in and see a remnant of a chair, but not really. So that's where it's really necessary. Or if another option, another scenario might be if you suspect that fixed assets are being misappropriated in some way. I've never encountered that, but.
So what additional burden is there, I guess, for tagging everything? So like every one of these chairs would have a tag hanging from it?
Well, it'd only be things over $500.
But like if you
So for
bought in
this
bulk.
room, for example, they would come in and they'd say 50 board chairs, and they'd list that as one item, and come up with a replacement cost for that item. We would not tag every single chair in here.
Okay.
So you're only going to tag those items where the original cost is estimated to be $500 or greater. And we would still keep our capitalization level at $5,000. In other words, we're only going to put on our balance sheet and depreciate for assets anything over $5,000, or $5,000 and above, I should say.
And then the cost element, is this a competitive cost, in your opinion, Chris?
I'm sorry?
Is the cost element, the $23,000, is this
I was very
competitive?
pleasantly surprised. I thought it
Okay.
was going to be much higher, actually. But I do really believe this is a good time to do this, since we have all brand-new furniture and equipment, especially at the elementary levels. But it certainly would be very important to have those inventories done at the high school and middle school as well.
And I was pleasantly surprised too. The appraisal cost, in essence, at $2,300 is relatively cheap. I mean, you can't get a commercial.
Oh, for the cost
Yeah.
replacement?
I thought
Yep.
it would have been a lot higher.
Yeah.
So I'd be that positive. Other questions, comments? All right, thank
All right,
you.
I'll bring this back as a contract for the next board meeting.
Great. Our next discussion item tonight, cell tower. Jerry.
Thank you. We have a cell tower that we collect rental from, and the cell tower is located at the high school. And the original contract was put in place in March of 2005. So over that time, we've accumulated quite a significant amount of revenue. The current management company for the cell tower that represents Verizon is American Tower, and they contacted me and asked if we'd be interested in doing a lease extension. And so I asked them to, initially they didn't offer anything, but then they came back with an offer describing the three options: a 30-year lease extension, 20-year lease extension, or perpetual easement. And so I thought I'd bring this to the board and ask for direction. My recommendation would be to go ahead and accept the 20-year lease extension for the $40,000 one-time signing bonus. I think that would leave us with the most flexibility. In 20 years, they can come back, and then they might have another offer. I'd like to be able to have that opportunity to do it at that point in time. The perpetual easement, I don't think that's beneficial to the school district because the rental revenues that we get goes to the general fund. I think the perpetual easement would basically be a land purchase, and so that wouldn't benefit us from the general fund perspective.
Questions, comments from the board?
So what would happen, Jerry, if we said, yeah, let's do one of these options, then through the study of our high school property, we concluded, you know what, we need to do something different. We need to get out of the lease. What are the provisions for getting out?
In the contract, there's provisions with notification to be able to get out of the lease. I did let them know about the dynamics in the future and the discussions of the future of the high school, so that just to keep them informed about that. So I didn't address that specifically. Like 1 year from now, if we decide to break the lease, then we have to prorate or refund the $40,000.
That would be important to know.
Yes.
I mean, not that we don't have some flexibility, but man, if it's right in the middle of something that we need, we also need to have the flexibility to act on that.
Okay, I'll find out.
Likewise, I'd like to have the opportunity to read the lease, and before we put it on the board agenda, have the opportunity to read it. So if we need a second legal opinion or a third about getting out of the lease, we can achieve that.
Okay.
Did they give you a timeline, Jerry, on a response at all?
No, the current lease expires, I think we had the initial term was 15 years, so we've had till 2020.
Oh, okay.
So they just wanted to be able to get things locked in ahead of time, so there's not a sense of urgency that I can see.
Okay, great.
And the monthly rental that we receive on that?
Excuse me?
The monthly rental currently is?
Currently, we're receiving $18,680 per year, $1,500 and some change.
15 to 18 per month, right?
All right.
Any other comments from the board? Questions? Great, thank you. All right, next item tonight, policies to discuss. Anything from Policy Committee, Ronnie or Tim?
I haven't heard any feedback. Other than one, I think, item in the administrative rules where there's something that's duplicated, which we'll take care of that tomorrow in the policy meeting and get that revision made. There was one question about searches that we'll discuss tomorrow morning also. We have a policy meeting tomorrow morning at 10.
Any other questions from the board?
Any others received via email?
I think we did get a comment relative to a policy that's not on here that we can talk about tomorrow, and that is relative to the board committees that came in from Director Rosser. So we'll visit about that at tomorrow's policy committee meeting.
All right, moving on. I'll take a motion for consent.
Move approval of the consent items as presented.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Rosser. Discussion, Dr. Taylor?
We've got minutes from the regular meeting held on October 24th, the personnel report, and I would highlight that we also have an addendum tonight that includes 3 early retirements and 1 resignation. The early retirements of Karen Green McCool, who's a 3rd grade teacher at Fellow School, has worked for us for the past 33 years. Cheryl Lawson, who's a special needs teacher also at Fellow School, is requesting voluntary early retirement after 28 years of service to the district. And Mary Jo Tugasvik, who's one of our administrative assistants for human resources, is also seeking voluntary early retirement after 19 years in the district. The addendum, which is included with the information with the board tonight, is also a resignation from Becky McKibben as a part-time or half-time school nurse after 17 years with the district. There's also a item on the use of market factor funds and a receive and file of the 504 report from Ms. Darcy Cousins.
Additional comments? Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0. Item 13.
I move the board approve the Pebble budgets, fiscal year 15-16 results, fiscal year 16-17 final, and fiscal year 17-18 initial. The 5-year summary budget and capital projects.
Second.
Moved by Rosser, second by Esposito. Discussion.
We've got Jerry who is going to come forward. We wanted to talk about some of the capital improvement projects as part of a discussion before the board actually makes a final decision on at least 4 of the capital improvement projects that are on his list for next year in the use of PEPAL funds, which include updating some athletic fields and other things relative to Ames Middle School, some improvements at Northwood School. We also have tennis courts and a very unique project involving Edwards Playground, an expansion of the green space at Edwards Playground for at least enough for another soccer field that's there. So Jerry, we know we brought this forward to the board last time. We thought this would be a better time right at this moment to come forward and try and give greater detail relative to those projects so that the board can ask questions and then make a decision whether or not to approve this budget for next year.
Okay, thank you. I asked Jeremy Knutson, the athletic director at the middle school, to come out and kind of help co-sponsor this discussion about the improvements at the middle school and how it's going to benefit the students.
With Jerry and Pam Stanglin, we've partnered together to look at the facilities that we currently have in place at the middle school and looking at moving forward to help our programs continue to grow. There's some things I think that we can do that are going to benefit our student athletes, going to benefit the coaching that they receive, going to benefit our patrons as they come to visit the facilities, and then going to benefit our neighbors now that we have neighbors close to that piece of the property. Thinking about our student athletes first, the big thing for me was looking at the safety of those athletes. There's a few things that we can do that are, I think, very simple things that will improve the facility from a safety standpoint. We've talked about running some water out to the football practice fields, putting in a shelter to add some shade for those hot practice days, as well as a meeting place where we can have our coaches and their teams convene. We've also looked at how we can improve the coaching that goes on by looking at the quality of the surface of the track. Currently, the reality is it's hard to keep lines on the surface there. We'd like to look at that as an opportunity for our coaches to be able to provide a more authentic experience for our track athletes by being able to paint appropriate lines on a track that are going to stay, being able to add exchange zones and proper starting blocks. So there are some things there that are going to improve the quality of the coaching. We also currently don't have a restroom facility out there at the football and track area. That's a high priority for us for a couple of reasons. When we do host our athletic football games out at that facility, we bring in a portable restroom, and then I have the facility open about a quarter of a mile walk across the bridge back to the school if someone wants to use indoor restroom facilities. And that also is a concern during our practice times. For our student athletes that are out there if they have to use the restroom. During the spring, we have not put restrooms out there so the students would have to come back to the building, which means that a coach probably is going to have to come back with them, taking away time from the practice. So there are some very strong considerations there that I think we want to look at for adding that restroom facility out at the football and track area. The final thing is now that we have Dotson Road moving through, we've got some neighbors that now are viewing that property. And so doing some things to aesthetically make it more pleasing for our neighbors, I think would make us good neighbors to have. And we do know that facility gets used a lot by the people in that neighborhood. We see people out on the fields regularly. And having a nice and appealing facility for those neighbors, I think we owe it to them now that we've got those houses being developed around the property.
So Jeremy, what kind of track are you guys proposing then? I mean, it's gravel now, correct, in essence, or limestone?
It's a limestone surface now, and I think we've talked about a couple of different surfaces, but asphalt, I think, would be the direction that we would lean so that we can put permanent lines on it and have it set up so that our athletes can have a realistic running experience as they're developing. You know, for many of our student athletes at the middle school level, this is their first experience with track and field, so having them have a proper facility to learn about the sport would be great for those students.
And then from an injury standpoint, are you witnessing injuries with the current track now, or how would that potentially change with this new application?
I think we'll see a different type of injury,
Okay.
and it'll be more burns on the legs as opposed to twisted ankles and things like that. So, you know, obviously at the beginning of these students learning about that sport and running over hurdles and taking off from starting lines, you're going to have some kids go down. So you're going to end up with some skinned knees and burns, but we'll have less of the types of injuries that are twisted ankles and things like that can occur with the current surface.
In addition to the student athletes, I assume PE's using this as well?
PE uses the facilities regularly, as well as a lot of our classes will take their kids out and they'll do activities out there, whether it just be a nice day, so we need to get kids out of the building, go and walk around the property. We're very fortunate for having the space that we do out there.
And then can you talk to, regarding outside of practice, how is the current site being utilized for competition?
The only competition that we're holding on the property currently is our football games. Home football games are held there in the fall. That's really the only thing that the facility lends itself to at this time. We have soccer matches, but we hold those on the fields closer to the property. However, I think, what's that?
Would that change, I guess, if you had bleachers? And
It potentially could. We've been using the portable bleachers. We've got some sets of bleachers that are you know, in need of repair periodically that we're moving around and putting them where we need them for the various sporting events and seasons.
What other questions?
Is that an egg lime track? And does that compact during the summer? Get more like
I'll let
concrete
Jerry
over time?
speak to that.
Is that the same stuff that I'm thinking about?
Yeah, it's a white limestone, ag lime.
And to be clear, we have 7th, 8th football, 7th, 8th boys and girls track, and then 7th, 8th cross country. I know they don't run around a track, but those are our teams, right?
And then we have intramural soccer.
Okay, thank you.
So I see there's a fair amount of money for fencing in the budget. So how does is that fencing to keep people off the track? Is that fencing more for other perimeters? What do you suppose that is, Jerry?
Well, most of the fencing is around the track. It's a 4-foot fence, so it's not to keep them off the fence, but just to create that barrier. And also then the fencing then extends kind of around the perimeter so that they can collect a gate admission for when they do have their football games. They're going to collect admissions too.
Do you collect a gate currently?
We do. What we've done the last couple of seasons is put up snow fence along the edge of the property in order to kind of barricade off along the parking lot. I know that we don't catch everybody through our gate, but you know, the vast majority of the people that are coming to view those games are coming through our opening in that.
And from what I understand, Jerry, we're reusing none of this cost involves scoreboard other than installation maybe, but we're reusing a previously used scoreboard, I believe?
Yes, the one from the high school.
Say that again?
The scoreboard from the high school was salvaged and it's in storage right now, so we'll be able to utilize that over here. That'll be, even though it's a used product, it'll be an update or an upgrade from what we currently have out at the middle school.
And regarding the restrooms are going to be up in that upper left-hand corner, and there's an existing shed there right now, correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And in addition to that, that's also going to allow for some concessions too, I believe, for the boosters to provide some concessions out there?
Yes, we have allowed a small, sparse kind of concession area in that, along with the restrooms.
I guess my final question would be timeline, Jerry, and then also from a PEPL standpoint, with all of our projects, I assume this is something that the committee is supporting. Maybe talk to the timeline first and then back to the board.
Yes. Timeline is we'd look to be able to get it bid here early next year and then start construction in next summer.
And then we'd be up and running by fall? Or?
Yes.
Okay. And then PEPL, thoughts?
Yeah, so this has been, I'll say, on the agenda for about 2 years. And it started with, hey, we'd like to do something. Well, what does that mean? And it then got to a more specific effort to create a game plan and kind of a vision for what this would be with support of the staff out there. And so, yeah, I think it's been pretty well conceived and pared back is not maybe the right word, but more focused on what the needs are. I'd say some of our initial concern was we don't need to necessarily create another competition venue. Let's use the heck out of the Ames High one. And I think that's all accomplished from this. We're doing football there now. We'll do football after this, but the rest of it is just probably, had Dotson Drive been pounded in when this whole middle school was conceived, these improvements would probably be made. It was kind of a little bit of our backyard. Well, now it's more of our side yard. So I'd say, yeah, the citizen members, particularly in the PEPL committee, thought, yeah, we should go ahead and do this.
I think something that the committee also looked at, in addition with the middle school committee, also, the recommendation of the surface of the track. We didn't want to obviously go out there and put in a really nice track because it's really not necessary. The middle school is going to continue to have one competition that the track meet that is hosted?
We host 3 track meets a year.
Is it 3?
At the high school.
Okay, so those will still be at the high school on the nice track, whereas, so there's no need for a nice surface where the asphalt surface was recommended because it's going to be durable, it's going to last, and in the long term, be most cost effective for the needs of painting lines and giving the kids a real experience. And also, yeah, the twisted knees and running on gravel doesn't really work too well sometimes.
So the gate revenue is for 3 football games?
We host generally 6. This year we had
football
8
games?
home football games due to some scheduling conflicts. Generally our gate for those football games is enough to cover what we pay our officials and then put a little bit back into equipment for our student athletes.
I think the last, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking about the cost of that fence. If the fence is only there to get gate revenue, I can't imagine what there will be no return on fencing that, and we're certainly not doing it for security reasons, because I'm guessing you're going to leave the gates open anyway for people to use that at night.
No, I think we need the fence, just to be able to kind of limit some access, easy access to it.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after Dotson Drive was completed and the parking lot was put in, somebody contributed donuts to the football field via vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just to be able to reduce the free access into that, I think that's going to be helpful and necessary.
I would also say that there's been a lot of investment in the irrigation, and the quality of the fields at the facility are second to none. We don't play on a better grass surface than what they've been able to produce out there at those fields. And it's not just that main field now. The surface that our kids are playing on, practicing on, is second to none. And so the maintenance staff with the irrigation, I'd like for them to be able to protect the work that they've done because it's phenomenal.
I think at the last meeting, it was fairly obvious that I wasn't supporting this project. And interestingly enough, I received some feedback from the community. telling me that I need to get over it, that the reason they vote for PEPL is to have projects like this. And so, even though I'm not completely sold, the only feedback I've had has been positive, so I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on, you're going to do the other two, right, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on this part of it? All right, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
The Northwood project, we took a similar approach. We had budgeted in there some money in for replacing the East Drive. Wanted to go ahead and take a kind of a bigger look at an overall master plan look for that, look at the Northwood project. And so when we did that, we looked at doing the replacement of the East Drive. That's been well used. It's starting to get some cracks and some settlement, so it's time for replacement. That's reached its life expectancy. We also considered, and again with this one I work with Principal Stroth, and went to be able to address his concerns, his needs for that building. The other thing we talked about was circulation at the North Drive to separate the parent drop-off from the bus drop-off. And currently the parents drive out here and then they'll exit out here where the buses are due. And if what we could do is to be able to improve this drive here, which is under moderate condition, just this section here, but we want to be able to broaden this entrance here to be able to allow two-way traffic, and that'll separate the parents and the bus drop-off. We also talked about and found a need to be able to address the existing hard surface playground. That's, again, it's aging and needs some effort, some rehabilitation. When we talked about that, we talked about the need for putting some trees out there to be able to create some shade out in that play space. In the soft surface playground then, we wanted to go ahead and get improve some drainage. We found some drainage problems there. Then also we want to put a curb around that to isolate that area. Then Brandon also, Principal Strauss also had a request for some additional playground features. A little bit of miscellaneous minor improvements was to be able to put some picnic tables up and to address the trees, and also put a bicycle parking area out front, which is some minor modifications in pavement. The trees are necessary because we've got a couple of elms, and I think there's an ash tree out there, and then there's some older kind of deciduous trees that are showing some some wear and age, so we want to be able to kind of clean that up and improve the overall appearance.
Comments, questions on this project? Tennis courts?
On the tennis courts, the high school, we currently have an agreement with the city for the use of the tennis courts. I was able to get out there last week and got some photographs, and they're showing some sign of age and wear, and there's some significant cracks in the tennis courts. Currently, we split the cost to maintain the tennis courts with the city of Ames, and we've been, over the last several years, been paying on average about $40,000 a year for repairs. It's an asphalt tennis court, and with the asphalt as being flexible like it is, and the ground that it's on, that's the reason why it's cracking. So the PEPL committee discussed the opportunity of being able to go ahead and move forward with tennis courts up here on the 24th Street site, just north of our building here. And that's going to provide us some benefits to be able to kind of get ahead of that from the high school perspective. With the future of the high school, space is going to be a need, so if we can anticipate or even be proactive in order to be able to free up some space on the high school site by relocating the tennis courts here, that's going to be consistent with our high school and helpful with our high school program.
So to clarify, Jerry, the 40,000 a year, is that the total cost or is that our share?
That's the total cost. We'll
Okay, so
split that.
we pay 20?
Yes.
Okay. Do they, it means the city wanting to participate in installation here, or what's that dynamic going to look like?
We didn't discuss that directly. The only thing we anticipate, we have a 28E agreement with the city that expires into 2020 or beyond. I think it's 2023 or 2025. And so we just have to work through that. If we're going to end up removing the tennis courts from the high school, then we might have to maybe extend that agreement here to include this space. I'll talk with Keith Abraham and bring that discussion up to him and see if there might be any opportunities that the city would want to participate.
Because I believe, don't they rely on the high school courts because they're lit and the other tennis courts within the city? I recall that from Parks and Rec Commission meetings, that they rely on those lit tennis courts when those at Brookside were no longer offered lighting. So I think that would be a good conversation to have with Keith.
Okay.
Would these be lit then?
Excuse me?
Would these be lit? Would they be lit up?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
What kind of timeline did you have on that one, Jerry? I know we were lapping over 2 fiscal years, I believe. So if you're looking at design and in construction and a couple other things that we have to work through, what was your timeline in your own head?
Not this summer, but the following summer. So I wanted to kind of bring it to the forefront for discussion and direction. I've got it budgeted. We can reallocate or, modify that or postpone it, however. But I just wanted to get it in front of the board so that we're aware of it, and then we can go ahead and move forward with any direction that you might have.
So are we approving that tonight, the spending of the money, or just you're informing us?
We're basically approving the next year's budget, and then that, as far as in the future, is a potential.
Okay.
I mean, it can be.
Yeah, my concern, I'd like to know more of the specifics with communication with the city before we stamp that one.
Okay, yes.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, from my experience, we kind of approve the budget, then life happens, and then we reconcile the budget a year from now and say, boy, we did more things in some areas that we thought, and boy, we didn't do any of these that we thought we might do. My only caveat to Jerry was that, this space out next to us might be, we haven't landed a pool yet, and we haven't landed tennis courts yet, and we haven't figured out our high school campus yet. And so I think bringing some more order to what the high school campus would look like might help to inform us a little bit on what we use this adjacent space to us for, whether it's a pool or tennis courts or something else we haven't thought of yet because we don't have a high school game plan. And if that was years and years away, it wouldn't make sense to wait, but I think that's probably 6 to 9 months away from getting sorted out, sort of consistent with the Pepple budget as Jerry has it put forward.
Any other questions on tennis? And then Edwards.
Okay. On Edwards, I did a little bit of coloring again. Thank goodness for kindergarten. So this is the Edwards site. North is towards the top. Miller Avenue is along this street here. And south of the building, we have this detention basin. I've highlighted in yellow the top of the berm. So that is significant because that's what's going to contain the water under the stormwater condition. And then after it hits that, that's what we need to be able to store. So I don't want to encroach or to reduce that amount of volume or area. In addition, what we've got right now, there's a kind of a longer, narrow area that's slightly sloped to the east and the west. And Principal Peterson has requested that we expand that in order to be able to get some ball fields or some soccer fields out there. So I think we can do that by expanding it out to about this line here. The red line indicates one contour, 1090 or 1039. And we could go ahead and expand that out here to the far edge or to the south, which would be able to create that space. In addition to the site fill, I've got included some fencing and some allowance for sod.
What was the cost of that one, Jerry? 53?
50, I think it was more than that. I have it here.
Thanks.
$115.
I was only halfway there.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that, that isn't drawn in on there, is that 2 soccer fields, not 3? What are we?
So like 2 soccer fields end to end. It's about 560 feet from one end to the other.
Okay.
And it would be fenced, you said?
Yes.
Is it currently fenced? Is there fencing currently there?
No, there's not. Basically, the fencing that's on that site is around the perimeter.
So it'll resemble in that way more of like how Fellows is set up now.
Yes, yep.
Any other questions on this one? Anything else, Jerry, you want to add before we vote? Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0. Item 14.
I move the board approve the open enrollment request as presented.
Second. Moved by Esposito, seconded by Rasmussen. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0. Item 15.
I move the board approve change order number 12 to contract with HPC LLC for the 24th Street project in the amount of add $5,302.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Esposito. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0. Item 16.
Move the board approve change order number 9 to contract with Manning Siebert Mechanical Contractors, Inc. on the Sawyer project in the amount of add $1,804.97.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Franson. Discussion. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 7-0. Items on the board.
I guess I just want to thank the people from the community that came out tonight to talk to us and assure them that it has formed some questions, at least in my mind, that I'll ask and get some feedback on. I don't know that it's going to ultimately change my personal opinion about moving forward with this process, but it certainly has tweaked some interest and asking a few questions. So thank you for coming out.
And I'd echo kind of what Rodney said. That, it's been a very challenging, but I think rewarding in the sense that we've brought a lot of people together and a lot of stakeholders to deal with this very important topic. And I know TLC and the group has been working for 18 months on trying to develop this. So you always react to things, and we of course need to reach out to stakeholders to find a resolution. But I think long-term it's in the best interest of our students to keep moving forward. I have kids in that age bracket. I know Lisa has a child in that pilot. And of course, I think I asked at least 5 times, I don't want to use these kids as guinea pigs. And I was assured by our professional staff that this is just a tool and that they will continue to educate kids in the way that's important for their development. So we do need to reach out and have that discussion, but I do appreciate parents reaching out, but I'll probably continue to be supportive of moving the pilot forward.
Like Luke said, I am a board member, but when I leave this room, I do have a child in the pilot. So as a parent, I understand the concerns of having a child go through 3 programs. I will say that I had some great conversations with the staff who are working with my child and the other children at the elementary that they are at, and they have helped me to feel good about the direction in which we are moving. I take it very seriously when we talk about doing pilots for kids. I've taken this entire discussion very seriously, and I have tried so hard to reach out to people. And I get the emotion that goes with it and the passion. These are our kids. So I completely understand that, and I really appreciate you coming to us. I have made notes to myself on ways that we need to continue to make sure that we are correcting maybe some misinformation that is out there, and making sure that we are continuing to do the best job we can to keep people informed of what is going on in this district. I believe everybody has the best interests of kids at heart. I know there are lots of ways to get there, but I do believe as a district this is a very, very important process for us to move through so that we can figure out the materials that we do need to select that are the best fit for our district. And I believe wholeheartedly that these materials have been vetted very well prior to them coming into contact with any of our children. Otherwise, I would not be in support of it. So.
And I'll kind of go back to my original comment. One of the reasons why I'm not certain that the questions that I have in my mind will change the outcome is because the goal of this pilot, if that's what you wish to call it, is to identify material that the district can use that would better the instruction these kids are getting and capture more learners that are struggling than we currently are. So in the vetting process, it's my belief and my trust in the TLC committee as well as in the staff that these programs that have been identified for the test pilot would go beyond what we are currently doing and not be a negative but be a positive for these learners.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that in supporting the staff and administration that developed this. I mean, the TLC had limited input. They brought us recommendations. We've asked a lot of hard questions, but I wouldn't say that we gave a lot of direction in all of that, because just like what I'm asking a lot of parents to do, I trusted those people with this program. Our teachers evaluate our kids every single day over and over and over in order to move our children forward. One perfect example of that, I told the 9th grade science teacher that I'd tell everybody at this table that I didn't figure I'd bring it up here, but in conferences, my 9th grader, and I don't know how he slipped through the cracks, but he was put on that first tier of the science program. And so that was one of the things that we talked about, is how do we know that kids are going to be, that the teachers at the high school are going to catch those students and move students from one tier to another tier, one track to another track, I should say. And here it is at conferences 6 weeks into the school year, and the teacher brings it up right away. We need to move your son to track 2. They are evaluating continuously, and they're going to catch those things. I have total faith in the staff that put this together, that they have a program that will get us the answers that we need to see so we can move forward.
I think maybe one thing I would mention, we don't have any of our teachers here because there are conferences tonight, but if they do listen, I want them to know, I know that this is a tremendous commitment on their parts to pull this off. I know there are a lot of things additional things that are going to be on their plates, and I appreciate their commitment to helping us to select it. I value all of their voices on this, and I want them all to have a voice when they go through the process of filling out the rubric and filling out the survey, because I believe that we need to identify district-wide what's the best, and so I'm hopeful that we can have all those staff that are participating in that be able to provide us with that feedback.
Well, yeah, if you look at those percentages of the teachers' opinions, of of the three programs in this pilot, it's the teachers' opinions that are by far carrying the most weighting. I mean, they're getting double input in this through the rubric, through the conversations in their team to score the rubric, and then also in teacher surveys. And so the people that we trusted to put this together are the people that we're trusting to do the grading of a lot of this also. So.
Other comments from the board? All right. Items from staff.
Of course, we've got the policy committee meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Just as a reminder to board members, this Wednesday at 6:30 is our meeting with iLead, which is the ISU group. They are minority students in education. They're going to come in and have pizza with us, and we're going to talk about putting resumes together, which may help them, I hope, down the road land jobs, and I hope some of them are in Ames. On November 15th, also as a reminder for the board, we are hosting right here the legislative forum for Story County. So our legislators will be here. We have some question and answer time with them. We hope that at 6 o'clock or at 6:30 approximately, people can show, grab a little bite to eat. We may give them a tour of this particular building and then start with questions for our legislators at 7 o'clock. We also do have one parent volunteer who would like to attend. If there are other parents or business partners or friends that you know that would have some interest in attending that night, we have room for from Ames 4 parents and 4 business partners. So if you know of anyone else who would like to attend besides yourself, please let me know, and we'll make sure that we get a written invitation out to them in particular. We do on November 21 also, as a reminder to the board, have a joint meeting with the United School District Board of Education that will begin at 5 o'clock. We hope to run that particular meeting the same with about a 30-minute social time period, about 45 minutes of real board time before we start our regular board meeting at 6:30 on November 21. I'm happy to announce that our girls swim team won their 6th of the last 7 years state girls swimming and diving championship. 6 out of 7 is pretty good. When I was there at senior night, I had one parent say, and Director Rosser may wince a little, but the one parent told me, and it wasn't Director Rosser, said, we're going to win the next 5 in a row too. So quite a domination. One of the things I noticed in the scoring that came back is that we were around 340 points. The second place team, I believe, was Johnston at like 117 or something like that. So it was another route, to put it
197, but who's counting?
Pardon?
197.
197, I got those numbers confused. Either way, quite a distance between first and second. So congratulations to Coach Flannery and the girls swimming team for their 6th championship. 3rd in a row, 6 out of the last 7 years, I believe. The Ames High cheer squad finished 4th at state also, so there's another cheer out, excuse the pun, to Sarah Buss and the girls from the cheer squad at Ames High School. And I did hand out to the district, or to the board last week, some information relative to our band, orchestra, and vocalists from Ames High School that really began to dominate again in the all-state balloting for the All-State Music Festival, which is held on November 17 through 19. From Ames High School, we honored 23 band students, 6 orchestra, and 5 vocalists that will represent Ames High School during that particular all-state festival. It's interesting to note that there were 77 students picked, and so we had 23. West Des Moines Valley had 10, and then it goes down to the 7s and 6s. So again, Andrew Buttermore and Chris at the Ames High School have done another remarkable job, along with Mary Kay Polashek and, of course, Steve Lynn for the vocalist part. All of those are very happy things. I did, incidentally, for the public, hand out a list of all the individuals who were successful in reaching the All-State Music Festival group, a list of their names to the Board of Directors at our last meeting. I also, during consent items tonight, forgot to mention that we had 2 gifts to the district. that were cash donations to the high school, middle school food pantry, $973.40 from the high school DECA program, and $776.61 from Northminster Presbyterian Church. We'll certainly get a letter saying our thanks to them for that. Again, I'm really looking forward to the iLead thing on Wednesday night, and I hope some directors will be here. Sawyer Elementary School, incidentally, this is one of our firsts. We've always taken time during Veterans Day, but at Sawyer Elementary School this Wednesday, November 9th, they really are going to have a ceremony for Veterans Day. They're going to treat veterans to a breakfast and followed by a ceremony, a little choral presentation of patriotic music. The fifth grade teacher, Brett Fuller, put this together, and not only breakfast, but for breakfast, the veterans will then have the opportunity to go in and answer questions from students at Sawyer School. So we're really kind of proud of that. Sue Lawler was here just a few minutes ago, but I wanted to bring that up. The Story County Legislative Forum, and I think my last comment comes back to parents that were here tonight, and I was gratified, at least in one of the emails that I received this week, because they certainly did pinpoint that, yes, they do believe that we have the best interest of kids in Ames High at heart, or in Ames Community School District at heart, and we certainly do. That's why we're here. I also wanted to point out that there was a word study team that was composed of, I think, 34 teachers. Every elementary building principal participated, and they began their work last fall, trying to take a look at our literacy program to identify the one sliver of phonics that appeared to be a gap. From that work, they began to vet various programs that were recommended or identified through various sources, including the Iowa Department of Education and the Iowa Reading Research Center. Those individuals then began that process of taking a look and narrowing it down to about 3 of those various programs that were identified as being the best perhaps for our kids. And incidentally, Foundations at Fellows was a pilot, and it did start that way. The problem that happened there, it was purchased. It was not vetted by the district. As a pilot, I think it is my moral and ethical responsibility to make sure that our kids get proven sets of materials that work best for our kids. That's my moral and ethical responsibility, and I take it very seriously. I also wanted to point out that in our district and board policy IF, which I am hired to follow, it identifies that we need unified skill and content expectations for all kids. And that comes from having the best materials available to meet the needs and fill the gaps the kids have. The Iowa Reading Research Center was not hired. They were asked and invited to come in and work with us as part of their legislative mandate. And I give a lot of credit to Dr. Deborah Reed for coming in and helping us, giving us lots of advice, not giving us direction, but giving us advice that was very, very important for the Teaching and Learning Committee, for the Word Study Committee, and for the administrative team that was working on that, and for this board. I like to think, and I truly believe in my heart, that all the people that were involved in this at this point were doing what is morally and ethically correct in determining which proven sets of materials are best for our kids. That being said, we will meet with the Teaching and Learning Committee. I'm certain that I will get reactions from this board. And from those reactions, I will put a direction together. We will meet, and we'll make sure that we let the parents and the students know. Thanks.
Anything else on the board?
So I just have like 2 trivial things following that. You kind of gave us a teaser on enrollment last time, Dr. Taylor. Has that plane landed, or will we get that at our next board meeting?
It's still bouncing a little bit.
Okay.
I hate to say that, but we're down to 8. So we started at up 10, and now we're up 8.
Okay.
Because we found 2 that were identified in 2 different districts. So we should have that rectified and certified as done by the next board meeting.
Okay, and then ISB signups, or
Thank you.
ISB is next week, and I plan to go on Thursday, and if Kim wants to send a notice out or something to find out who's going.
I think I had that highlighted. November 16th through 18 is the IASB convention for directors. If you want to go, let Kim know. She'll sign you up. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
All right, I'll take a motion, if you could read the whole thing in item 20, and we'll into closed session. I gotta read the whole thing.
Good. I moved closed session as provided in 21.5, Section 1, Section J of the Open Meetings Law to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property.
Second.
Moved by Rosser, second by Briggs. Discussion?
We will meet in conference room B, by the way.
Okay. Proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Oh, we do roll call too? Okay. Roll call.
Briggs, aye.
Rosser, aye.
Rasmussen, aye.
Franzen, aye.
Deerdorf, aye.
Talbot, aye.
Esposito, aye.
Passes 7-0. We're in closed session.